How to Commit a Murder and Get Away with It by Danny Ahearn. Oh, Danny boy. Hi, I'm Gary Lovisi, and this time we're going to take a look at a book written by a career professional criminal who had his heyday during the Roaring '20s and was quite the charming, dapper, but vicious criminal, a career criminal, and he wrote a book. What happened was the publisher, Washburn and Ives, or Ives Washburn, wanted to have a book written about the third degree, how criminals stood up under the third degree. So the editor got in touch with a person who knew somebody, and they got Danny to write it. And Danny was a career criminal. He when he was asked his bona fides for writing such a book, he pulled out a whole handful of newspaper clippings from the 1920s, when this took place, showing all of his criminal activity and the things crimes he'd been arrested for, times he'd been in shootouts in Brooklyn, and all kinds of things. So Danny was a troubled lad. And originally the book came out in 1930. This is the original American hardcover edition, but the dust jacket's been redrawn by my wife Lucille to copy very much the original dust jacket. This book is really rare, very hard to find in hardcover with dust jacket. It was reprinted in England as Confessions of a Gunman in 1930. So these are the two 1930 editions, and that's the only editions of this book that ever appeared. When this book came out originally, people were saying this book is so dangerous, this book is devastating, this book is vicious, this is not something anybody should read, and it is a step-by-step, crime-by-crime instruction manual for career criminals on how to do dirty work and get away with it, including murder. And Danny leaves no punches unpunched. He goes into everything. He talks. He can be charming and quite interesting in his descriptions of things, but he's very politically incorrect. He doesn't like anybody, and he trashes everybody. And he is the mind of the true criminal, and it's a devastating book. And I'm actually proud, because I think that this is a book that really is a noteworthy book. And Greg Shepard of Stark House Press and Jeff Vorzimmer, the editor of their new imprint, Staccato Books, okay. And this is book number 6 in the series. It's a great series of classic noir from the Jazz Age, from the 1920s and 30s. And this is a book from 1930, detailing all of Danny Ahearn's criminal activity during the 20s. He was a bootlegger, he was a thief, a robber, all kinds of things. He was involved in fraud, mayhem. There's a picture of Danny boy. And he's about 25 years old here in the picture. And it's a devastating book. So if you're into true crime and want to have a kind of a peek at what was going on in the 1920s and 30s with real criminals during the age of Al Capone and Lucky Luciano and all of them, because he knew all of these people.
Authentic language and flavor.
And the thing about Danny was he was a smart guy. He was charming, smart. He was a vicious thug and perhaps a killer, but he wouldn't admit it. But he seems to have gotten away with some murders. But he was smart. He was a writer. He wrote for the Daily Worker. He wrote stories, crime stories that were later made into movies in the 1930s and in the pre-code days. with starring people like new stars like James Cagney and Jackie Gleason. So he was quite the up and coming guy, but he couldn't resist crime and he couldn't resist being arrested for various criminal activities, and you'll find out all that about him and more. A fascinating guy, fascinating individual. And the thing about his book, How to Commit a Murder and Get Away with It, is Danny's telling his own story in his own words. And that's the charm and the terror of reading this true crime book. It's a mini masterpiece, and it's something that I think you really want to get a kick out of. Get this new Staccato Press edition from Starkhouse Press. Just came out, and you're gonna love it. If you like crime, if you like true crime, if you like hard-boiled gangster stuff, mobsters, you're gonna really dig this, because this is the true stuff, and it's intense. So with that, I just want to thank you for looking, and I know you're going to get enjoyment out of reading this book. And give us a thumbs up if you like this presentation, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for looking.